Hey, we're live to talk about Inside Number 9, the final episode, Plodding On. If this is your first time watching, hello, I'm Enchanted Essays. I post obscure film and TV reviews and video essays, including one that I have done on Inside Number 9. Sophie, do you want to go next?
Hello, I am Soapy Loves Movies. I like to review and discuss weird and wacky media, such as films and music.
Hi, I'm George, or my YouTube channel is Jetro. I make videos about League of Gentlemen, so yeah.
There's like merch videos and stuff.
Merch
isn't it?
videos, yeah, that kind of thing. But I'm planning to eventually move out and talk about the show more as a whole as well. Start working on videos like that soon.
Brilliant. Hello to AK if you're still there. Hello to Tim if you're still there. Tim got on very early. Hi Ross. Guys, this is perfect. My flight has been delayed, so I have something fun to listen to. Yeah, brilliant. I think we're all curious to hear what you thought of this episode, Soapy, overall, because this is your 4th episode of Inside Number 9. What did you think of this?
I thought it was interesting, with the two people in like the cubicle. I was just kind of like, okay, I guess this is happening, I suppose. I thought like they're probably referencing like some in real life announcements or something. So am I right in thinking that?
The fact that they were in the toilet cubicle together.
No, I mean like in general, like were they just like referencing like in real life like announcements and stuff, like the Dante's Inferno thing, or was that like just something?
The Dante's Inferno thing isn't real. But yeah, okay. Everyone in it was playing themselves, and I don't think that Mohammed's podcast is real either. But yeah, everyone was playing themselves. And I don't know if you know this, but in Inside Number 9, they have a rule that apart from Steve Pemberton and Reece Shearsmith, who of course also write every episode, they don't have anyone come back to do any episodes. They only made an exception for Derek Jacobi. And he in one of those episodes he was doing the voiceover and he wasn't on screen. It was a complete surprise when Catherine Parkinson walks on.
Mental.
Yeah, I was at I should say, I don't think I've said it during the stream yet. I was at the premiere, sort of, I don't know if premiere is the right word, the premiere event, whatever it was, in London. It was announced on Twitter and then it sold out in about 20 minutes. Because it's just a small cinema screening, and most of those tickets went to press or they went to people who worked on the show or the actors. So it was literally, I was there with some friends who are also, who I know from Twitter, who are also Inside Number 9 fans. And it was really difficult to find seats where we could sit together because so much of the seating was reserved. So we were in the back row. And but anyway, so yeah, when doors opened and we went in, we assumed we'd be going straight to like the screening room. And it's like, no, we're at like, the bar upstairs where the actors and crew from the show already were. So
oh my God.
I was like, so Catherine Parkinson was there. Sian Gibson, the woman from Car Share, she was there. Robin Asquith, the guy in the episode of the Sparkly Jacket, he was there. Matthew Kelly, who I don't think was in this episode unless he was in the background, but he was in Boo to a Goose as Harold, the crazy man. And actually he came up to me and my friends and just me and my couple of friends were sat next to the table where he and his friend were, and the two friends I was sat with are goths, like proper like 80s goths with like all the makeup and everything. They always look amazing.
Careful. Ross may have some things to say about that.
What about goths?
It's because he said he didn't like the goth aesthetic, so I'm like, that's a thing now.
Well, I mean, there's varying gothic aesthetics, of course, because it was about the last episode, wasn't it? Yeah. But yes, and it was like, you know, those sort of bench, sort of plush booth seats around the outside of the room, and my friend just sat on them, and she moved her backpack so he could get past. He went, "Oh, thank you, don't worry, you're not in the way." And he said, "You look lovely, by the way." He turned to my friend and went, "You look lovely too." And he turned to me and went, "You look lovely, but in a different sort of way." Gothic is not goth, or does not equal goth, or am I wrong? I think it is slightly complicated. I think it's like a yes and no answer. Simultaneously yes and no.
I could make a whole live stream just about this. So
that would be cool. Would it be like that bit in School of Rock during the montage where he's got that like giant spider diagram of the different genres of rock music?
Pretty much.
So yeah, that was really nice. And my friend hadn't realised who it was because, you know, he doesn't, you know, he was dressed really nicely in his like suit and Hawaiian shirt. He wasn't dressed like a homeless person like he is in the episode he's in. But yeah, so it was really amazing. And Steve and Reese were there when we first entered, and then they left because doors opened about half an hour before the screening, or half an hour before the first Q&A. So it's a Q&A before and after the episode. So yeah, they left at some point. So yeah, that was cool. But anyway, so yeah, and I'd assumed it was like with when I went to I'd been to the screening of of Mulberry Close and Boo to a Goose at the BFI, and I assumed that it's like that. You know, there's some people there who were in those episodes, but there were also some people. There was at least one or two people who weren't. So Jim Howick, who was in the series 2-episode trial of Elizabeth Gadge, was there, for example. He's the guy from Ghosts and Horrible Histories.
He was in the episode. Jim Howick.
Oh yeah, he was in this episode, but he wasn't in Boo to a Goose and Mulberry Close, which I saw at the BFI.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, before the series started. So yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that bit where Catherine Parkinson first walks on, who is the first person we see in the first ever episode of Inside Number 9. And there'd been rumors that it was going to be a two-hander, but we'd had no information about the episode, so obviously we couldn't. We know not to trust any information. Not necessarily to trust any information. So, but I was still thinking, well, it's possible it could be a two-hander. So when she came on, I involuntarily whooped because I loved her and thought I think she's amazing in general. But yeah, I was just so excited to see her back, and it mirrors the first shot of the first episode. So Sophie, in the first episode, it's about a game of sardines that adults are playing at an engagement party. So she's off looking, sort of like hide and seek. So she's off looking around, and she goes into the bathroom and she smells the soap, and then she goes into the wardrobe, opens it up, and Tim Key is there. Tim Key, I forgot to say, was also at the premiere for this event.
Oh, that's so cool.
And I've got another Twitter friend who adores Tim Key and was like, well, he was in the first episode, maybe he'll turn up in this one. And we were like, you're so delusional, bless you. No, she's clearly a witch. She manifested this. That's insane. So yeah, I should actually show the bit I'm talking about. But yeah, so it mirrors her finding him in the wardrobe and getting in the wardrobe with him. and Anne Reid, who turns up for a toot at the end, she was also in that episode. So yeah, it's this incredible atmosphere of, oh my god, they're bringing people back. I don't know when people necessarily realized that it was everyone playing themselves. Obviously, there is don't know if you can get a good shot of it here. The 9s on the bathroom doors are all 9s from the openings of different episodes. So I wasn't sure at first if that was an Easter egg or if it was going to be a meta episode. Until they started talking about Stephen Rees. So and they have done their when they did League of Gentlemen for their movie in 2005, I think it was, they were also playing themselves, but that was like a characters coming to the real world to go to the writers kind of story. It wasn't this kind of story, but yeah, they had played themselves before. But yeah, anyway, it was just so amazing to because I mean, as people have kept asking me in past streams, what do you think they're going to do for the last episode? I was like, oh, I think they might do one that's a bit meta, but I didn't mean like this. What I meant was an episode that was like Bernie Clifton's Dressing Room, which is about sort of two sort of musical style comedians, which obviously isn't their style of comedy, but it is about a double act, so it's partly autobiographical. Or Simon Says, also partly autobiographical one because it's about insane fans. But there is stuff from their real experiences in there. So yeah, I was thinking of something that was about, maybe something about show business or something inspired by real life, or maybe just something thematically about endings. I was not expecting something this meta. Although if you asked me if you thought they were going to do something like this, I wouldn't have ruled it out. So Jetro, what was your reaction when you realized it was a sort of meta episode like this?
So like usually, okay, I've got like certain strong thoughts on certain things, like meta episodes usually just really grind my gears. But I felt like for a show like this was like the only real way they could have like ended it, other than doing something elsewise like batshit nuts. They couldn't have ended it on like a just regular episode. So I don't really mind them doing like going meta for it. And also the fact it's just so mental of an episode. Like it is like unlike any Inside Number 9 episode, because it is the meta-ness of it. I really enjoyed it, to be fair. Of like, I don't know, I thought it was really, really cool. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, they said during the Q&A, actually we hadn't necessarily expect. We were thinking of doing it as like the 5th episode instead of the 6th episode, because then we could because then everyone would sort of have a lot of high expectations for the last episode. But I think they said it was once they'd finished the episode that they were like, this has to be the last one. And it is a very light episode because no one dies.
Yeah.
But I think I was the only person I know in the fandom who wasn't like crying during this episode. I mean, or that either during this episode or just because it's ending, which obviously if you're sad that it's ending, you're going to be crying during the episode. But I'm just kind of, I'm so happy it went on for this long. I'm so happy they had the freedom they had. I'm so happy that it stayed this consistent in quality. I mean, it's unheard of. I think it like in anything for it to be this consistently high quality. So I'm just, but I think that's partially because I've only been a fan for about a year, and I really spaced out watching the episodes because they give me a lot to think about, and that meant that it was only like a few weeks before the series started that I finished every existing episode of Inside Number 9. So I haven't had that long period of not having more episodes to watch. And maybe it'll sink in later, but yeah, it wasn't a sad experience for me. It was a joyful one that they ended on a high, and I think it was a good decision to end on one like this than the most sort of stereotypically Inside Number 9 episode with like a really dark, that's like has a dark twist or something. Yeah. And but yeah, I imagine it for but yeah, do you think that the episode, Sophie, do you think the episode sort of stood on its own as someone who hadn't seen any of the things that they're referencing here?
I mean, I think it does, at least for me, because I mean, I understood what they were doing, even if I didn't get exactly what they were referring to. I mean, I knew that they were like playing like versions of themselves and that they were referencing things in other episodes. And I could assume that because it's an anthology that they were bringing people back. And I did recognize some of the actors, although not from this show. So I was just kind of like, okay, I see what they're doing. So I think it's a pretty solid episode.
That's good. Yeah, I was worried it wasn't going to stand up like at all. That's because I did message you before and saying I don't know if you're going to enjoy this episode, because it's just there's so much meta going on to the extent that, I mean, with a lot of things, I look at things that have references and I can tell whether or not someone would get it if they didn't understand all the references. But with this, because there were so many references, it was difficult for me to tell if it could stand on its own. Anyway, sorry, I've been neglecting the comments. Fortunately, every episode is good, but unfortunately, every fourth one is a dud. Very good. I had because the friends that I was with were goths. You could probably guess that they love the stakeout. So yeah, they gasped during that line. There were quite a few gasps throughout the episode. Hello, Brian Damage. It's a pleasure to have you as always. Hey, kids, I was watching the footy and forgot you were on. That's all right. We started at like 10 past, or 9 past 9. So yeah, you're not too late. Going back to the whole Gothic thing, Gothic fiction, sometimes called Gothic horror, primarily in the 20th century, is a loose literary aesthetic of fear and haunting. The name refers to Gothic architecture of the European Middle Ages, which was characteristic of the settings of early Gothic novels. Yes, very true. Ross, again, I was doubting you guys when you said the BFI episodes were amazing, but when they turned out to be 9x1 and 9x3, sheesh, 2 heaters, yeah. I think a lot of people were surprised because of how... I think people were surprised that Boo to a Goose was first. I think partially because they thought it could have been the last episode, and partially because they thought... they don't tend to start a series with high concept ones, I don't think. I certainly can't think of like a high concept one that they start the series with, because they tend to ease you in a bit. But I suppose it's only really high concept at the very end. Brian again. To start with, I thought this was a very good episode. I suggested to people I know who watch it was going to be a meta episode. I must be some kind of Mystic Meg type character. Yeah. You're my friend who's a Tim Key fan. You're both witches. I'm going to send whatever the characters are called in Trial of Elizabeth Gadge round. Hard to be more meta. Yeah, absolutely. This is indeed true. There's some Community episodes come close. I haven't seen Community, but yeah, I've heard that's very meta.
Oh yeah, it is. I love that show.
Something that strikes me as odd with this episode is that the sardines nod didn't tie into anything, when Inside Number 9 is all about the details. I think it was just the fact there were so many little references was the thing, if that makes sense, rather than it tying into anything bigger. I think if you watch this going, okay, I need to piece everything together to work out what the twist is, I mean, that's going to be a bit difficult. I guess that if there is a twist, it's Steve faking the seizure, but that doesn't feel like a big plot twist. like a whole thing hinges on it that comes towards the end kind of twist. I didn't pick up on the sardines until you mentioned it just now. Yeah. I mean, I suppose if you hadn't seen it in a while, you might not necessarily think of that straight away. Everything tied together, it's all connected. Unless it did have some value, my media literate brain didn't just pick up on. Yeah, I think it was just the facts that, this is mirroring an episode. I don't think it goes any further than that. But there was just so much of those things, like the fact that Sian Gibson comes in, mirroring her coming into the conversation, coming into the argument during Bernie Clifton's dressing room. That was sort of intentional because it was mirroring that, and it was so many little things, just like my innards, thankfully. What do you mean? Everything connected? Hello, DCS Media. It's lovely to see you as always. It's a really nice way to wrap it up. You would have to have had at least some knowledge of their previous work. The Gators phone call would be weird if you didn't know their relationship. Yeah, I suppose if you just knew Gators as like the Sherlock guy, or the Doctor Who guy, then yeah, I imagine that would be odd. League of what? Midsomer Murders, am I right? Yeah, I love that bit. I don't know if I want to see the whole detective thing again. Midsomer Murders. Because I imagine that is what most people sort of recognise Mark Gatiss from looking at him.
Not Sherlock. Literally, whenever I'm like trying to talk to people about League of Gentlemen, I get, it's got Mark Gatiss from Sherlock. I feel like that's his, like, I don't know.
Maybe I think that is what he's best known to people for, especially if, I don't know, you were like a teenage girl whenever that was popular, like I was. That was kind of all the rage. But yeah, I'd say that is probably the thing he's known for, especially considering he was a recurring character and he was the co-creator / co-writer.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the reason why it's best known. And I know that there are people who got into the League of Gentlemen fandom from Sherlock, because they were fans of him. So
really, that's really cool.
Tim, poor Anne Reid got some bad snow from the dummy man in Deansgate. He may have been moonlighting between the two. Yeah, between League of Gentlemen and Midsomer Murders. Currently working on my Series 9 video, nearly done. Oh, brilliant! I look forward to watching that. I more recognise Gatiss from his Doctor Who work. Yeah, because he's been a writer on Doctor Who since before Doctor Who came back. Because he did, I think he did. I don't know if he did Big Finish before the series came back. I don't know if he's written Big Finish at all. But he did write books. And then he wrote some straight-to-video Doctor Who things because
Probe.
The rights were different in those days. They changed it now, so any new writer creating a character, the rights are owned by the BBC. But at the time, different rights were owned by different writers. So different home video companies would buy the rights to different characters so that they could make episodes. I mean, they could make straight-to-video movies. So I know he wrote some of those. I know and he wrote the one of the first gay kiss in it in any Doctor Who media. Because I know that there's something about gay characters in a private school or something. I haven't seen it. I've heard it's not very good. I heard he doesn't like it, but I'm very curious.
Oh yeah, he said on interview like he's tried to not get it sold or something like that. But you can find copies of it. You can find copies. I found copies.
Yeah, it's yeah. If you know where to look, you can certainly find it. But I think in terms of official releases, it's only been released on VHS. I think. But
there's been fans who have put it onto DVD. But I think it's kind of beautiful because of how bad it is. It's
I imagine there's a certain charm.
Yeah. It's sort of like looking at like home, like those home videos you made as a child, but it's got like actors in it. So it's a bit weird. You're like, oh my God, it's Reece Shearsmith. What is he doing here? But it's like really young Reece Shearsmith. Like, so, I mean, they're interesting watches. I would say that. If you like, I don't think you need to be too heavily into Doctor Who, because I think it only like lightly links into Doctor Who, if you get what I mean. So I've not properly watched it. I've seen obviously clips of it, but I'm pretty sure it just lightly links in, so you can kind of watch it and not be like whatever concerned. You don't need to know. You don't need to know all the facts about it and stuff.
Yeah. Brian Damage, straight to video. That's the kind of thing old people, me, say. Yeah. And I've called them videos rather than VHS. That's like records and vinyl. The people say now.
I remember when people used to say straight to DVD. I'm not that young, right? I'm not that young.
Actually, there's an episode of Inside Number 9, Tempting Fate, where there's a character who is a young adult who doesn't know what a VHS is. And this was like an episode from like 2018 or something. And I'm like calculating her age and like the minimum age she would have to be like having a job. And I'm like, she would recognize a VHS. Like, how middle class are they now that their own children wouldn't recognize a VHS?
I mean, I know some people. Okay, I'm like 18, but some people my age doesn't know what VHS are.
Yeah,
but
someone 18 6 years ago, there's quite a big difference, because I looked up when the last VHS was, and it was 2006, and you could get. I had VHS for years afterwards, so I could buy them in charity shops for years afterwards.
I can still find VHS in charity shops now. I think you just need to know where to look. Yeah, I think you just need to know where to look.
Oxfam still sells them.
Yeah, I remember a lot of places stopped taking them, but I know kind of like vinyl, they are kind of coming back. I don't think in as big a way as vinyl, but in terms of the whole collecting history kind of thing, which is the appeal for vinyl to me. I'm not that interested in new vinyl. It's just from a technical perspective, the music isn't better quality. I just like the thing of owning something that's 40, 50 years old,
Yeah, I get you. That's sort of why I've got like the League of Gentlemen on VHS as well. I've got Requiem for a Dream, and I was planning to get the Blackadder on VHS, because the box set of that looks really cool. This is the thing, like the old box art for like, to be fair, some of the DVD stuff looks quite nice, but I really like the old VHS box art because they just look quite cool. And the big box, the big Blackadder box one looks so cool. I'm gonna get it one day. I know it's pointless, but God damn, I want it.
Yeah, there is still a big. I think that it's good that there is still a big market for home media in general, even if it is becoming a bit more of a niche collector's thing. I think it's good that it hasn't died out completely. There are still HMVs.
Yeah,
they're finding more and more things to sell. They're selling American and Japanese imported candy. They're selling T-shirts, merchandise, Funko Pops, loads of stuff. But they are also still selling DVDs and CDs. So
yeah, true. But I always look on for like second hand for like DVDs. But I think the last time I brought something from HMV was, I think I brought. Do you know the band The Wurzels? You know the one. I've got a brand new combine harvester. Yeah,
I'll give you the key.
Yeah, I got that on CD from HMV because it was so cheap.
Brilliant. I still have a bunch of VHS. Yeah, they are still popular. I have VHS tapes, but no player. You can get them online, both new ones and secondhand. They are doing new ones again now. Not new VHS tapes, but new players. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do. But I think you're more likely to get a bargain if you get a secondhand one. I think. I don't really know much about it. I just know that they are available.
I mean, I'm planning to get like because this is going to sound super weird now. My favorite kind of player is a VHS and DVD player, and they're dead cheap, and you'll be able to find them anywhere. They're the most common and cheapest kind. You'll be able to find loads of it on like eBay, and I mean, I don't know, you could find that kind of thing secondhand as well. I mean, also there is some new VHS people, and also because I do follow some people on these. This is mostly Americans. I've not seen it happen or be moved to like the UK. But there's people who like put films like like American Psycho. They get that and they've put it onto VHS, but they've made it like a limited edition version. So like they've made the VHS look really cool. So the American Psycho one was like a see-through one with like blood splatter on it. It looked so cool. And there is people who are making movies and they're like, I know, like I think it's like they know it's annoying for people, but they're like, no, we're only releasing this on VHS because we want to be cool and niche. And I respect that.
Yeah, I think that sounds brilliant.
I mean, it being American Psycho does make sense because American Psycho is set in the 80s, so it makes sense for it to be released on like a limited edition VHS.
Yeah, well, I think all these like new ones that are being made, like these weird niche American filmmakers who are like being like, no, we're only releasing it. They're doing it mostly just for like that old aesthetic that they're kind of going for. They're kind of going for that kind of vibe, I guess.
Brian Damage again. They're on the way back like final. There's a guy in Liverpool who has VHS nights, a whole 80s experience with arcade games, etc. Oh, that sounds brilliant. I love retro arcade games. They're so much fun. But yeah, they are. The first I heard of sort of VHS kind of coming back in sort of like a kind of niche cult way was this guy who used to be on SNL, Kyle Mooney. He has like a sort of VHS collection. I think he had one in his office when he worked there. But yeah, I think it's understandable. I'm not sure about like music cassettes though. I think there might be.
People are using music cassettes now. That is coming back.
Yeah.
Is it Hoser? I think the Take Me to Church bloke. He released his album on cassette. Like the cassette is kind of coming back. And personally, I don't understand that at all. I do have a cassette collection, but it's more like collecting old stuff.
Yeah. I didn't realize that they were a thing because like I don't know, my parents just never got rid of their cassettes, so
well, I think that's the thing with the whole bringing back old formats and things is, do people have the players? I think that's because I'd heard years and years ago of a band that my dad followed bringing out a cassette and it not doing very well because no one has cassette players anymore. Whereas with vinyl, it's already like an established thing.
I've got 3 cassette players. Oh my god, these people! I have too many cassette players. This is a problem. I had to chuck one away recently because I had too many.
The reason why nobody has them anymore is because George is hogging them all.
Yeah, that might be it. Right, I also have no player anymore. Weirdly, there are still things on VHS that can only be required on VHS. Yeah. There are some things that I've covered, I think, that are only available on VHS or
the Rick Mail Grim Tales thing.
Yeah, that was only released on VHS. I think it might be on DVD now, but I think at the time I reviewed it, Past the Ammo had only been released on VHS. That was the third video I ever did, the second review I ever did. It hasn't done very well. But yeah, I don't know if it is available on DVD now. Henry and Ali in the League of Gentlemen approve this conversation. Yeah. Scene. How many killings? Reece Shearsmith once complained that DVD extras are generally crap. I mean, I disagree, but maybe for someone who is like who is actually in the industry might feel different about that. Maybe someone who actually works in the industry might feel, well, you actually don't learn that much. I mean, I certainly disagree with the ones League of Gentlemen, like the ones that like I mean, for Apocalypse alone, there was the bloopers and the video diary. And people are dying for bloopers of Inside Number 9 because they must be so brilliant. But I don't think they'd ever release them if they did have them. They used to do DVD commentaries, but I don't think it's something that's done in general anymore. In fact, a lot of people at the time when Series 2 came out, the BBC didn't get them to do commentaries for the DVD, which some took as a sign that the BBC were considering not continuing the show.
This is the thing. Inside Number 9, I think Series 3 and onwards doesn't have on DVD any special features, which
I think that's kind of the norm now. But I think when that happened, it was taken as a sign that might happen. So what they did was they recorded the commentaries themselves and then uploaded them to SoundCloud. They are no longer there. Someone has re-uploaded them to YouTube. So yeah, you can still go and find them. But yeah, but then they did a podcast called Inside Number 9. That's on BBC Sounds, which I haven't heard yet because I'd been avoiding it because, of course, it took me so long to get through the series in general. I didn't want any spoilers. But I've heard clips of them on misc.mp4, who does things like Reece Shearsmith being angry for 9 minutes, those kind of videos. So I've heard bits. They do sound like a lot of fun. So yeah, I will probably listen to them at some point. You see, that's the thing. Maybe that's another reason I don't feel so sad. There are more things for me to consume Inside Number 9 wise. And of course, they are doing the live show early next year, and I'm probably not going to be able to go to that. But still, I'm just like, there's that at least,
I hope they release the live show on DVD. I don't know if they've said anything about that.
No, not. I'm talking about Inside Number 9. They're doing an Inside Number 9 play in London in like January next year. It's going to be like 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
It's going to be an original show.
I know about that, but what I'm saying is I hope they record it at some point.
Oh,
like
that, yeah.
Like how how they recorded, like I kind of think they will because it's done. It's the same company that's done all the League of Gentlemen live shows, but I kind of hope they do because of course it's going to be unique, and I can't spend like more money to go,
especially these days with theatres, and especially with it having such an international appeal and fan base Inside Number 9. I would imagine there's a possibility of it being broadcast in cinemas, although I don't know if it would be considered, sort of highbrow enough, because it tends to be a lot of, opera and more serious, cultural, in inverted commas, kind of plays. You know what I mean?
Who would like that? Who would like that?
Motive in the Queue, which was about like Motive in the Queue, which of course Mark Gatiss is in, which about Richard Burton and John Gielgud. Like for that, I can imagine that did get a cinema kind of release. So it is that kind of thing that's appealing to a certain kind of audience. So I'm not sure if it would get a cinema release, but I think because of the international appeal, I think it probably would be recorded. to be released afterwards. That, and I think they're just, I think to avoid having to do it again.
Yeah,
after the original run, I think they would. But yeah, go back to DVD extras. Yeah, I think the absence of them are sorely missed, especially people like me who, I adored them when I was growing up. I had the ones I watched. I used to rewatch them, especially the ones for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the Tim Burton one, and for Chronicles of Narnia, because I had so much information on them, and I mean, there were both 2-disc sets, and of course there was because they're both fantasy, there's so much behind the scenes stuff in terms of the design and making the world, and it's really fascinating stuff. So I imagine, to someone who already works in the industry, I imagine they're pretty dull.
I mean,
they're pretty surface level. But
part of home media for me was watching part of the appeal was watching the behind the scenes stuff, and it's why I got into being interested in film, because while it's nice to sort of immerse yourself in the film's world, it is also interesting to see how these kind of things are made, because it makes you appreciate the process a lot more. Because even really bad films are really difficult to make. And I mean, like when you see like, or hear interviews about how people like Ed Wood really tried. Like, Ed Wood was really trying his best to make the best film he could make, but they would just happen to be terrible. So I just think it's a shame that this kind of thing isn't so readily available anymore.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I could think of a production doing that significantly was with the Hobbit films. They did, because of course, I think they became really well known because they came with the extended cuts of Lord of the Rings. Not only came with 2 DVDs for the film with like at least 2 different audio commentaries on it, but also they had 2 discs of special features, and I have seen those are fantastic. And because it was a production on a scale that nobody had ever seen, and I don't think it's pretty much been seen since. But anyway, they did that with the first 2 Hobbit films, and I don't think they did it after that. But from the sounds of it, the production of it was a shit show. So I think they were kind of trying to do probably it was probably the publicity team behind, let's do it because then it'll be like the featurettes that you did on the original trilogy. But I think maybe interest had waned after the second one or something like that. But I remember watching them at the time and finding them a lot of fun, but they weren't really in depth and in detail. It was just, I think it was like a few video diaries from the actor. I haven't seen it since in like 10 years. But they definitely weren't as in depth.
I mean, to be honest, I think that just I don't really like the Hobbit films. I don't know if that's a hot take.
Have you?
But
no, it's definitely not. Have you seen Lindsay Ellis's videos on it?
Yes, I have. But as a kid, I couldn't really articulate as to why I didn't like it. But I was just kind of like, this is not as good as Lord of the Rings. You know, one thing I always noticed as a kid. Sorry, I was going to say, one thing that I always noticed as a kid was when they replaced an actor in like a sequel or something. And as a kid, I was just kind of like, you're never going to fool me. I know that that's not the original actor. You can't get that past me. I don't know. It just really irritated me as a kid.
Well, it annoyed me recently because I've just watched the entirety of The New Statesman. I'd seen most of it before, but I hadn't seen the whole thing. So I just kind of binged it recently. And there's a character who's an executioner, or a former executioner, who comes back in a later special played by a different actor. But the main reason it's a shame is because the original actor was Peter Sallis, so he no longer had Wallace from Wallace and Gromit talking about different methods of execution. So so yeah, that is a shame. I'll go back up. I think
I really like the special features. I mean, I'm gonna watch all the special features on the Comic Strip Presents once I've finished through that, because that's
you're watching Comic Strip Presents?
Yeah, that's what I've got to plug the inside number 9 shaped hole. I'm getting through that at the moment. I'm like,
oh, I love that. I need to return to that. I got into series 4, but yeah, and I've said, haven't I? I've been to 2 of the cinema screenings. They've done a cinema tour recently.
Yeah.
Have I told you that? Yeah.
There's
2, the final 2 of this weekend, by the way, guys. Tomorrow they're in Brighton, I think. You'll have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure they're in Brighton tomorrow. And then day after that, they're in London. I think it's Crouch End. I'm not sure. For the London ones, they haven't just gone for their big Leicester Square cinema picture house. They've gone to the little ones in like Hackney and stuff like that. That's where I saw Alexi Sale. So please go to those. Even if you know nothing about them, it'll be an experience. And there's been no fucking publicity for them. It's been a disgrace, quite frankly, how little publicity there's been. I'm sure there are so many people who would have wanted to go and who will have been willing to go who won't have gone because they didn't know it was happening. So
what I learned that was happening through you. You are the publicity.
Yeah, and thankfully, Rick Mail Scrapbook, who I've mentioned a bunch of times, the woman who runs that invited me to write a little bit at the end of that article about my experience going there. So yeah, she went and put an article about it, but she had heard about it through me. You know, the person who runs like the primary Rick Mail fan page of Rick Mail Media had no idea that this was happening until I told her. And I think I found out about it through my dad, and I think he saw a targeted Facebook ad or something.
That is disgraceful. Oh my God.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. Either that or actually it might have been that a friend shared it, but it might not have been advertising at all. But yeah, I think it's been disgraceful how little publicity it's got. Because you feel so sorry for the actors, because they already talk down the comic strip anyway. It's like, oh, maybe it wasn't as good and it's aged now. Like, no, it hasn't.
Who's talking it down?
Like, Peter Richardson. He's like, oh well, maybe it wasn't good. But yes, if you can get there this weekend, Jetro. This is your last chance, but because I've really enjoyed all of the ones I've been to. It is well worth the money, I think. Nigel Plain is going to be at the next 2, aka Neil from the Young Ones. So yeah, if you're in Brighton or London or anywhere near the vicinity, I think it's been a shame they've only toured the south, but Peter Richardson's in his 70s. I imagine he just doesn't want to tour that far. But yeah, if you're able to go. It is 100% worth it. But anyway, I could talk about comic strip all day, so it's best if we return to comics.
We should do that as a separate stream. Yes,
absolutely. Gaming Bus 2024. What do you think about the new seasons of Inside Number 9? I think it's been consistently incredible. I've mentioned before. I don't think it's declined in quality. I think the series becomes less shocking as you watch it. But but as someone who's watched a lot of the series out of order, I don't think that it's that the series itself has got less shocking. I think that you kind of become accustomed to their voice and how far they go, because they'll go as far as possible with emotion, and they're not afraid to go to dark places, but at the same time they know the difference between being offensive and funny and being offensive, because the purpose of comedy is to be funny. If it's offensive at the same time, there you go. But there's a difference between that and being offensive and claiming that everyone else has a problem with it, which is what they don't do, which I absolutely love about them. Many other things I love about them, obviously, but I think that's that's a real sign of their integrity and that kind of thing. But anyway, I think it's been consistently brilliant, and I think it's incredible that it's managed to be this consistently brilliant. Talking about recognizing Mark Gatiss, I recognize Mark Gatiss. Hit Inside Number 9 episode Merrily. Yeah, it's another good example of like a slightly meta episode that was the kind of thing I was thinking it was going to be, because of course that's about university friends and they met Mark Gatiss at university. So despite the fact that they are a lot closer than the characters they were playing, that I was thinking that kind of slightly meta thing rather than quoting the episode, she's charged me for 2 Cokes. Yeah, Soapy, that actor who was complaining about the bill, is in an episode about characters complaining about a bill, and it takes up the whole episode. It's brilliant.
Okay, that makes more sense.
I watched that one today.
Did you? And of course, Catherine Parkinson had bought 2 Cokes of a different variety. Going back to the VHS kind of conversation now, there's a very comforting feeling from the whole VHS experience, but probably only people in the 40s and over. I disagree, because I grew up with VHS tapes. I think I had them longer than a lot of other people, because, you know, my mum's philosophy was like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And, you know, I'm very much the same. So until we had TV with like where it went and where you felt the static on the screen, we literally only got rid of that because my brother had a friend who was like moving to France for a year and needed someone to look after his TV. So we didn't have room for like this giant grey box TV, and from like the 90s or 2001 or something, and this big flat screen. But anyway,
I know exactly the kind of TV you're talking about.
Yeah.
My nan had
the volume on the front of it.
My nan had the exact same TV.
I think it had a remote control, but I think in the end we couldn't be bothered with the batteries for the remote control, so I think we did use the buttons on the TV.
Oh my god, you're like literally describing like a TV I've got, because I remember the remote just ran out, and so we were just like, oh fuck it, let's just use the side of it. We're too lazy. It's incredible.
Yeah.
We're too lazy to change the battery, so instead we get up and just like press play. All right, now turn up the volume. Okay, great. Now, great. That's good. Oh,
cassettes too, tangible goodies. That's where it's at, kids. Yeah, I think people are really becoming nostalgic for physical media, because it's physically owning something. There's just such a different feeling, you know. There's a difference between just having access, which feels like a very mechanical thing, and feels like a very easy thing. I mean, especially to younger people, because lots of younger people yo-ho-ho stuff. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. And then, of course, there's password sharing on top of that, which is, I've said, you know, streaming is like they've found a way to do pirating legally. So pirating came first, and then they tried to find a way to make money from doing something similar.
When I watched a little bit of VHSs when I was younger, because I remember when I was younger I had a show called The Herbs on VHS, and also Winnie the Pooh. And they say The Herbs was amazing because it's written by
Parsley the Lion, or I think it's
Parsley the Lion.
Yeah, I had a VHS of that as well.
Bloody great show. But you know, on DVD there didn't really sell many DVDs, and so you have to buy it secondhand. It's like 60 quid to get it, and you're like, oh my god, that's a punch in the gut. But
yeah.
When I'm rich, then I'll buy it. Anyway,
the problem with modern vinyl pressings is that there are barely any technicians left that can make tools needed and make vinyl records appropriate quality anymore, and nobody learns the craft. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it like that. I don't know much about vinyl, but it wouldn't surprise me. And most cassette tapes sadly lose quality very fast, noticeably. Well, I know that happens with the VHS tapes, but I mean, they certainly seem more flimsy cassettes. Hello, Joshua. Sorry I didn't say hi earlier. I'm only just getting through the comments now. Tim, kids skip tracks these days, but listening to a whole album on tape is more immersive. Yeah, I mean, I think I don't listen to full albums that much anymore. I did that far more, even though I was using Spotify when I was more interested in music than like film and TV, which was like when I was going through sort of my classic rock phase when I was around 16, 17. But I think then I kind of became attached to those albums. I wouldn't listen to many more albums. Like Pink Floyd's The Wall still is one of my favorite albums, but I used to listen to that album every day. I hadn't heard any other Pink Floyd album. I'd heard Dark Side. I'd heard Great Gig in the Sky once at someone's house when I was like doing a drama rehearsal there once. I hadn't heard Dark Side of the Moon or any other Pink Floyd, but I have heard Dark Side of the Moon and Wish You Were Here Now, and they're very much an album band, you know, in the traditional sense. But yeah, it's definitely a different experience. I mean, of course, Led Zeppelin refused to release any singles. They only released albums, didn't they? But yeah, I think it is. I think Pink Floyd, I remember I saw on Twitter a month or two ago, someone said, "Oh, I'm starting to listen to Pink Floyd," and I was like, "Okay, don't just listen to like the top 10 on Spotify. Go and find the albums." I mean, especially with The Wall, because that is, you know, that is a concept. Well, not just a concept album, because most of them are concept albums, but that is a rock opera. So you kind of need the story of the whole thing.
I think albums and music as a whole has kind of shifted away from having like these albums that are sort of you're meant to experience it as a whole, and now it's more like you can experience the one song and then the next song might be completely different or just slight. I don't know. I don't
follow modern music as much, but it wouldn't surprise me that it's going in that direction because the way people listen to music has changed.
My brother and I. Sorry.
Oh, continue.
My brother and I were having a conversation about this because several years ago I got a copy of Sgt. Pepper's for my birthday, so I just wore that CD out, and because of how the songs sort of like go into the next one, we were talking about how like, oh, when this album was being made, it was made to listen to as a whole, and like, you know how there's like an Easter egg at the end of Sgt. Pepper's. Spoilers if you haven't listened to Sgt. Pepper's. My brother was saying like, oh, with the way that like people listen to music nowadays, like nobody would find that, which is kind of sad when you think about it.
And you can't listen to it the way you would, because the thing with the end of the last track on Sgt. Pepper is that it's infinite. It just keeps looping. Whereas on streaming, it will loop that section a couple of times, but of course it doesn't loop infinitely, because of course it couldn't really do that. But there are some fantastic things happening with vinyl. I heard that guy from the White Stripes, Jack White, he made like an album, like a vinyl record that produced a hologram or something. And I don't know if you've seen that Saltburn one on social media where it looks like
oh yeah,
I saw that today actually.
I really like. I like that. I've seen that for Lemon Demon. I know that's. I don't know if anyone here listens to him, but he released one of his albums with like whatever watery stuff in it. But I think that's really cool. I love it when the vinyl has like a bit of flair to it, like the League of Gentlemen coloured vinyls always look really cool.
I want to get the Wii Sports Music vinyl.
That's a thing.
Just for the Wii boxing theme. Just for the Wii boxing theme.
Wii Sports vinyl exists?
Yeah.
I'm looking this up now.
Anyway, Edward did make the best films for $271. Yeah, I should. I'm not really into So Bad It's Good films, but I am curious about the film Tim Burton made about him.
With Edward specifically, like in terms of like social social themes in his movies. He was kind of ahead of his time. So I do.
I heard he was in terms of
like
sort of cross-dressing and that kind of thing in his films.
Yeah, he did an entire film about it, basically, which was like semi-autobiographical. I was thinking of like reviewing more of his films because although Plan 9 from Outer Space is sort of his magnum opus, let's say, he does have quite a few like other interesting ones.
Yeah, because I think the cross-dressing film, because I was looking for who the first non-binary character was for a video that I've semi abandoned that I'll continue at some point. But yeah, I think it is considered one of the first or the first film about a trans character. Anyway, Joshua Williams, bonus material is one of the reasons why I still own physical media or DVDs. It's a shame that you can only find them at a CEX shop or something that like that secondhand. Yeah, and yeah, DVDs like stopped doing special features like 10 years ago. I think at first it was so that people would be incentivized to buy Blu-ray instead at first. I think they still do that a bit for like Criterion releases and that kind of thing.
I know I know they still do it for a lot of horror movies.
Yeah, that's interesting. But yeah,
I think horror fans. Sorry, I was just going to say, like, I think horror fans are more the type of people who would be interested in that kind of thing.
I need to get a Blu-ray player because they're like, it's so annoying because some films, like weird random films, only get like released on Blu-ray, and I'm like, I want to watch this, but I can't because it's not on DVD. God's sake. So I need to get one.
Brian Damage again. Tim, I think albums are tailored nowadays to accommodate for the skipping. Older albums are often stories, at least, arranged to be an experience. Yeah. The one that makes you think of that the most, that's kind of like it's an experience and it's a concept album without being like a rock opera, having like a proper narrative, is Days of Future Past by the Moody Blues. Not related to the X-Men film, I don't think. I imagine that's where the title came from, but it's an album from 1967, and each track is about a time of day. I used to listen to that when I was getting ready to go to lectures at uni, because I'd have a good indication of how much time I had left to get ready based on what time of day the songs were talking about. Yes, concept albums are less of a thing these days. Yeah, definitely.
I think there is some, there are some still being made, but I mean, it's just it's a different landscape nowadays. I think the stories of certain songs are usually, they're just compressed within a song rather than trying to have it as a thing that carries out throughout.
Tim, Alexis Sale, I'm jealous. Yeah, it was great. I got him. I'd been to the first comic strip thing that was that started off the tour that had Jennifer Saunders, Peter Richardson, who's all of them, and Stephen Mangan. Got a picture of Stephen Mangan and passed him awkwardly on the arm, said I'm a really big fan, and then ran away. I didn't get the chance to see Jennifer Saunders. I did see her in the sort of lobby / bar kind of area beforehand, but she was like saying hello to her friends, and I didn't want to annoy her. I didn't manage to see her afterwards, but I heard that from other people who go to events like that at events she's off pretty quickly. So I would have loved her to sign the comic script book, which I have, but I didn't manage to get that. But I got a signature from Peter Richardson, and then when I went to the Alexis Sale one, I got his signature in my script book, and I was stuttering. I was excited to meet him, and when I asked a question during the thing, and when I was asking the question, I couldn't look at them at the same time. I was so shy, but yeah, they were absolutely lovely. And he's really nice. So I was worried I wasn't going to about train, so I asked if he knew what time it was ending, because I thought that the trains ended earlier than they did. And he said, so they're going to play the strike, and then there's a Q&A, and then there's bad news. So you should leave after the Q&A, because bad news is shit, because I'm not in it. So yeah, absolute sweetheart. It's really, really nice. I was so nervous. I didn't even mention that I was wearing Dr. Martens boots.
I mean, what other boots are there?
He did a song on the Young Ones about Dr. Martens boots, about how it would unite, the lefties and the skinheads and cause world peace. I didn't know anything.
You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, Brian Damage. I didn't know anything about the comic strip thing. Yeah, like I said, the lack of marketing is insulting. I mean, there's so much you can do with social media that. I mean, obviously, I think the individual cinemas have been advertising it, but also they I didn't know, they didn't show that it was a tour when it first did it. They just showed the ones in London, and then the week, I think, before that happened, they then announced the rest of the tour. I mean, maybe they just didn't have everyone confirmed yet, but yeah, it was a surprise. Going back to albums, gone are the days of Pink Floyd's The Wall and Dark Side of the Moon. Yes, bring back the 70s, the best time for music. Now it's just rubbish. It's like I know that's probably the wrong thing to say, and I don't want to agree with you, but I think I agree with you.
No, sorry. Oh, there is some right gems though. Like you gotta look harder for them. I mean, it's true. I mean, the 70s, you've got Plantasia, great album that. But, you've got I feel like you got to look harder for it, because this is the thing. Spotify's awful at suggesting you good new artists. So you've got to dig for it. I always think about that, about I really like hip hop, but I think most hip hop artists nowadays are horseshite, but you dig through them and you find some good ones. I think that's
Name 5 hip hop songs.
I'm
joking.
But I don't know. I think there is. It's just harder to find. You've got to look harder, but the new one, slap. They absolutely, Anyway, yeah. Sorry, continue.
Tim, they even made a film of The Wall. Yes, I'm planning on covering it at some point. I actually had someone DM me on Twitter and say, I love your videos. Let me know if you're ever making a video on The Wall, because I know loads of stuff about it, so I'd be able to help you with that. I was like, oh yeah. I haven't seen it since I saw it before I heard the album, and I didn't really understand what was going on. But I think once I just sort of read, a line or two of what the whole theme of the album was, and it all sort of fitted into place, and then I listened to that album every day. By the way, if someone listens to that album every day, get them help. That's all I'm going to say on that. Jitesh, sorry guys, arriving late. I was watching Germany versus Scotland match. Germany won 5-1. My condolences to Scotland. Brian Damage again. Tim, I've met Alexi quite a lot. Living on Merseyside helps. He's as you would imagine, understated humour. His angry persona is an act, obviously. I recommend. I did hear that he, when he's in London, because I think he lives in London, doesn't he? Pretty much the only place he goes to do gigs is a place called the Comedy Museum, which is a venue that's underneath an old church or something. And apparently he lives quite close to it, so that's why he just does gigs there. But that's something I heard. So yeah. Gaming Bus talking about what do you think of the series? I think the series is at an all-time best with this series. Stephen Reese have done themselves proud. Yeah, absolutely. I was moved to tears when they showed the montage of scenes from series past. Yeah, and when we were at the premiere in London for that episode, they showed it at the very end after the final Q&A and everything. And yeah, it was quite emotional. But again, I was like the only person there with dry eyes. I was like, the show was consistently good. It hasn't failed. That's good. Instead of like crying that it ended. That's my favorite cast of any Inside Number 9 episode. Yeah, that's brilliant. By the way, Enchanted Essays, love the callback to the bill when Reese calls Steve a lying fucking monster. Yeah, that's brilliant. So go back to VHSs. The Herbs, now you're talking. I was 3 when that came out. Oh, for fuck's sake, I'm so fucking old. Yeah. I'm starting to get to that stage where I'm just starting to have things where I feel old at 26. More references now. My mum ordered me a chicken biryani.
Wait, what was that from?
That's from Once Removed. When he's like, let me in. It's like, no, my mum's ordered me a biryani. I'd absolutely love to listen to certain newer albums on vinyl. Yeah, I suppose it's kind of an experience, but yeah, I don't see the point personally with newer ones. On some albums and EP singles, there are recordings beyond the end of the vinyl track, right in the last groove next to the middle of the record, which you never hear unless you have the record. Ah, that's interesting. Ah, yes, of course. The whole Paul is dead thing.
Oh, have I ever
Glenn or Glenda? That's the cross-dressing Edward film. Yeah.
Have I ever sent you that or showed you that short film? It's called Paul is Dead.
I don't think so. I know there's a mockumentary called Paul is Dead. That's like a sort of conspiracy kind of thing. Because Lars Land, who I did who's a Beatles expert, I did the stream about Doctor Who with. They did a reaction video to it.
I'll send you it after the stream. I think you should make a video about it. But there's this. It's made by George Moore, and he made this video, and it's just about like, it's really well shot, really good looking, like short film. It is bloody amazing, and the editing. But it's basically about the Beatles realizing that Paul is dead, and doing a funeral thing for him. It is really good though. Honestly, I love it. But I'll send it to you after the stream.
Fantastic, Brian. As you know, I work in the museums in Liverpool, and I'm hopefully going to put on a display about Dr. Martin's boots and their history. I'll be asking Alexi to come and open it. That would be perfect. Please tell me when you think that's going to be on, because I would love to go to that. That sounds amazing. I love Liverpool in general. I went there on a Beatles pilgrimage years ago with my partner, and it was absolutely wonderful.
Doc Martens and I were besties. They've never let me down.
Yeah, I have a pair that I'd wanted for years, but I was never able to afford them until recently. It's a good thing, they still did them 3 years later. But yeah, for years I would go past a Dr. Martin shop where I was living at the time and stare at them at the window. It's like that bit in Wayne's World where he looks at the guitar every day and he goes, It will be mine. Oh yes, it will be mine. It was literally that.
I had one. Sorry.
No, continue.
Oh, when I was about 5, I had my first proper pair of Doc Martens, and I got them in red because I wanted to be like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, that's so cute. Brian Damage again. If you like hip hop and want stories, listen to Wu-Tang Clan's music. I've heard of them, but I don't actually think I know any of their songs. I can't say much about other genres, but there's lots of good concept albums that have come up as in the hip hop genre. I don't know if it count as hip hop, but the only person I've heard doing rap and concept albums is that guy Plan B. I don't even listen to modern music, so I don't know if he's still relevant anymore. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the 2 albums I remember hearing of were concept albums. Mississippi Kendrick's Mr. Morale, which is extremely complex exploration of family trauma and growth. Oh, that's interesting. Tim, Beatles are my favourite band. Yeah, can't blame you there. They are brilliant. You know, they're famous for a reason. Anyway, I think we've been live for an hour and a quarter. Yeah, I was literally going to say you should retitle this Inside Number 9 discussion for 20 minutes and then just other stuff. I was literally about to say, yeah, I think we've talked for an hour on everything other than Inside Number 9. But you know, it's great conversations are great conversations. You know,
exactly.
But yeah, let's return to the episode. So yeah, Catherine Parkinson, I think, is brilliant. I think she's insanely pretty. I mean, how old must she be now? I mean, it's probably not that old, you know. I'm like 26. Like, oh my god, she doesn't look that old. But I mean, she must at least be in her 40s.
I'm searching it up now. She is 46.
Yeah.
Yeah, that. She's a pretty lass.
Yeah. So yeah. Amanda Abington, I think it is. She comes in. She actually came up to me and my friends and told us that we look great as well.
You're getting all the compliments.
I know. It was a surreal night. I love that bit of Anne Reid coming in and asking for some Coke. That was brilliant. So yeah, as I said before, Robin Asquith was wearing the same jacket, and when they did the Q&A beforehand, there's like, oh, they've got all these people from previous episodes here. Your Tim Key's here. Amanda Abington is here. Catherine Parkinson is here. Robin Asquith, what are you doing here? You've never been in an episode. Which reminds me, we're going to have to explain the bus episode to Soapy now. So what happened was, I can't remember if I've mentioned it before, but they did, you know, of the prank that I made the video essay on, where it was the live episode gone wrong, that was where it was possessed by ghosts, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so a year ago, they did a similar stunt. People compared the two too much, I think, but I have to admit that it is another stunt thing, where they came up with a game show that goes wrong, not in the same kind of sense, but like an episode set on a game show, and it was and it's I really like the episode. A lot of people are split on it. I think people compare it to Deadline too much. I think it's trying to do quite a different thing.
I liked it. I thought it was quite cool.
Yeah, I think there was a bit of misdirection there, and it felt like disturbing to some people. Thought it felt a bit stilted and unrealistic, but to me it felt disturbingly realistic, especially as someone who grew up watching Would I Lie to You. They said that they did say to Lee Mack, add how you would react to this, that and the other, but yeah, so yeah, I think that's almost what impressed me so much, was the fact that Lee Mack was Lee Mack. I mean, you watch him on Would I Lie to You, and he's so quick. I mean, there's a reason he's still on that show, despite the fact that he can't do anything on there that's a truth, because he and David Mitchell know each other. If he was doing something new, David Mitchell would know. I think I've literally only seen like once or twice in like the 20 years of episodes where he's or at least the last 10 where he's actually come up with something that's actually true. But yeah, so in order to they wanted it to go out just sort of as a random fake episode, and the BBC went, no, you can't do that. What you have to do is play it during an Inside Number 9 time slot. So we'll say, we're very sorry, we can't show Inside Number 9 tonight. Instead, we're going to show you this game show. So in order to do that, they're like, right, well, we have to come up with a fake story for a fake episode, and we're going to have to do the promo images, or we're going to have shots in the trailer. So they did the promo images with Robin Asquith, this actor here, and they came up with was on the Richard Herring's Leicester Square Theatre podcast a few years ago. Reese was complaining about people recommending number 9 locations, and what they've said since then is that it wasn't that people kept recommending number 9 bus to us. We came up with that as like an example of something people would suggest, but it wasn't something someone had ever suggested to us. It was the kind of thing we used as an example. But then everyone was like, yes, you should do one set on a number 9 bus. And then they were like, okay, we're doing one set on a number 9 bus. And they did it as a sort of like on the buses, which I haven't seen, but I think but from the sounds of it, it's like Carry On, but on a bus.
That does make more sense.
Yeah. And I mainly know of it because the film critic Mark Kermode, whenever he talks about a TV series adapted for a movie, it's like, oh yeah, Holiday on the Buses is kind of the lowest you can go in terms of that kind of movie. It's also like the stereotypical example. But anyway, so they teased this episode, and it was the one that fans ended up being most excited about. And then loads of people were then disappointed that the episode did not exist. People are then like, but the bus episode is coming, right? And they're like, no, that the episode doesn't exist. We literally have not made the bus episode. So, and that they're wearing this, they wore the same costumes for the promo images that you then see at the end of the episode. So yeah, that's what he's talking about there with oh well, we should do the bus episode, and here's the script. And I should say, I don't think I'll be able to show. Oh no, I'll try and avoid showing his bum. I can't show his. I can't be specific enough on scrubbing through here. So you caught a flash of it there. But yeah, they asked Robin Asquith afterwards about the bit where he had his bum out. It's like, oh, did you know that he'd say yes to having his bum out? And it was like, oh no, he came up with that. And they passed him the mic, and he went, yeah, you know, the costume guy, Yves Barr, he gave me this, modesty underwear. I'm like, how am I supposed to piss through modesty underwear? So yeah, I just I did it without. And we said, yeah, he was so lovely. He was like, do you want me to show you your bum, my bum beforehand, so that you don't laugh? And I went, no, I've seen a bum before, and then they did the scene, and he burst out laughing.
I mean, it's different when it's someone you know, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, it was just, and it got a massive laugh in the cinema as well. So yeah, that was very funny. Them talking about that. So yeah, and then the sort of the script is like exactly how people thought the episode was going to be. Yeah, I love that bit of her walking in as he's reading all the. I was reading the like, pass me a rag to clean my dipstick with, or whatever it was. Yeah, sugar tits, or whatever it was. That was very funny. I was talking about the montage. Poignantly, a couple of Inside Number 9 actors are deceased. Yeah, the ones that spring to mind are Helen McCrory from The Harrowing, and I had the name on the tip of my tongue. I was literally talking about him in a video today. David Warner, that's it, who was in both the League of Gentlemen's Apocalypse, the League of Gentlemen movie, and Inside Number 9 episode Trial of Elizabeth Gadge. He has passed away since that episode came out. Because yeah, I've literally been editing a video about a film with him in from the 70s. It's a really brilliant film. It's a really brilliant performance in it. Very autistic coded, which is obviously very fascinating for a film from then.
I think I should watch The Harrowing. I think I'd like it.
Yeah, that was their first sort of horror episode, and it is very, very gothic. So yeah,
my favourite aspect is the first half, because they do like loads of like religious references and stuff. And I'm not religious, but I liked seeing it there.
Yeah, I'm a fan of like religious mythology, as it were, you know, demons and vampires and such. But yeah, I think I need to rewatch The Harrowing, because I love the tension of the first half. I wasn't a big fan of the ending, but I think I wasn't really in tune with the pacing of it, I think. So I think I'd appreciate it more on rewatch. But most of the Inside 9 episodes I've only seen the once. Apart from Deadline, which I've seen a billion times.
What kind of has sold me on watching the episode is actually looking at the poster, because
yes,
it's just so like Hammer horror. I want to watch it now.
Posters are wonderful.
Especially the
They took my precious bus episode away from me. Yeah, the 3x3 was the second episode I ever saw. So I'd seen Sardines literally a couple of days before. That was my first Inside Number 9 episode, and then I saw all the news articles, and I hadn't seen Ghostwatch at that point, but I did have a fascination with it from when I heard about it. So I was like, oh my god, I have to see this. So I was never in the phase of looking forward to the bus episode. I think that's a difference, again, kind of like with me not feeling mournful that the series has ended. I think that's a difference between my experience and the experience of other people. So that's why I feel differently about it. Yeah, we lost the bus episode, but we got to see Robin Asquith's arse. So swings and roundabouts. I actually did a video where I wrote in my notes the entire plot of Hold On Tight episode when I reviewed a 3x3 episode, but I took it out because I didn't know how long to take it. Yeah, I saw a lot of people. I did check out Twitter when I'd first saw 3x3 and saw the reactions to it, where people had come up with fake reviews for it and that kind of thing. That was very funny. I think they hadn't allowed any TV reviews to review it beforehand, which I don't know if they did that with this. I think they probably didn't. But I think that's the first hint that. Oh, I think people saw it as a hint that this episode was just so exciting, the bus episode, that they didn't want to show it yet. But anyway, let's. So again, stuff to explain. There are plenty of other references that we're not going to cover in this video, but I recommend looking at the Inside Number 9 tag on Twitter, because people are constantly pointing things out. There's stuff that goes all the way back to League, but most of it is referencing League of Gentlemen. So this actress played a character in an episode setting in a dressing room, where she was playing the dresser of Steve's character, who was playing an actor in a production of Macbeth. So this whole thing of him, of her getting his suit on, and also his character's kind of an arsehole to her in the episode. So it's nice that they kind of had that tone. And Rishi Smith had said, we kind of did the reverse of me being an arsehole and him being nice, because I know that's what you all expect. I mean, I don't know what the fan perception of him was in the early 2000s, but to be fair, he did play himself as an arsehole in the League of Gentlemen's Apocalypse. So I don't know if he started that, or I don't know. I don't know what kind of internet fandom was like in the early 2000s. Wouldn't even know where to look for internet fandom talk in those days.
The random websites. The random websites are what I get for League of Gentlemen. It seems like there wasn't much League of Gentlemen talk. I mean, there isn't much now, but like, okay, I don't know if this is mean to say. The League of Gentlemen fandom, apart from the young'uns we've got now, seem like a fairly, obviously like kind of older group. Do you know what I mean? And so they were like less like, we need to, I don't know, go on the chat forums and talk about the Tlog and all that.
Yeah, although I don't know what age group it kind of resonated with when it first came out. I don't really know what sort of age it resonated with. I hadn't really thought of that. I don't think it particularly resonated with a certain age group. I think it resonated with people who had a certain taste of humour, from what I can see at least. I hadn't really thought of it like that. So, I mean, I'm sure... something online will exist. But I know there's a comedy forum site that has been going for like 20 years that I only heard about like a month ago. I haven't gone on there yet, but someone mentioned it in conversation. Apparently they mention it in Wuthering Heist or something. But that's probably got something on it. Yeah,
I can't get over that title.
What title?
Wuthering Heist.
Yes. Indeed. My Series 9 video has been tedious to finish tonight, but it's finally edited. Well done. Long videos could be really difficult. I'm so glad I'm doing my monkeys videos again because it buys me so much time. I finished June. I know there's a Palestine Twitter strike this month, so I taken that into account because of course people aren't going to share that on Twitter during that week. So I'm not going to post that week, but at the end of May I'd finish the whole month because it's 2 monkeys videos and today's review. It's it's the Madness pilot, which was for a monkey style show written by Ben Elton and Richard Curtis, who together are best known for writing Blackadder. I don't know if they've written anything else together, but they wrote Blackadder 2 to 4. And the specials, of course. But yeah, well done. It can be difficult to get stuff out. Yes, that's it. The understudy, the Rose Cavallerio. So yeah, it's nice that they were playing characters with like similar dynamic here. The bit with the poo in the shoebox references an episode where Steve's character actually I'm not there's poo that ends up in a shoebox. I don't want to spoil it for you. But yeah and also the bit where he's doing the lines in front of the mirror, like Dante, is this nothing? That's actually from Simon Says, the one about the crazy fans. That's also about a sort of they describe it the same way, Dungeons and Dragons type show. And we hear Reese's character say some lines from the script, and it's literally the same lines. I think that's such a brilliant reference, and they sort of then base it on this thing's based on Dante's Inferno, so they kind of work backwards from that. So that's interesting. I wonder if it was partially inspired by Reece Shearsmith doing Good Omens. I haven't seen it yet. I know I'm terrible. I'm like the only person in the fandom who hasn't seen it. Same with Ghosts. Good Omens and Ghosts. So what I need to watch next, clearly. But yeah, I think. But yeah, I did wonder if it was referencing that big fantasy show, because of course Reece Shearsmith, I think he had a cameo in series 1 as Shakespeare, and then he played a different character in series 2 who's a demon who had a much bigger role. So yeah, I wonder if that's kind of, obviously not exactly the same because it's filmed over here, but if they're kind of referencing that, or I think it's filmed over here, I have no idea. Nick Mohammed, I think I've only really seen him on panel shows and Taskmaster and stuff. I haven't seen him acting, which is what he's known for. I don't think he does like little Edinburgh shows and things, or like not little Edinburgh shows, but one man shows and that kind of thing rather than stand up. Which is why he's dressed as a vampire in for Taskmaster. He said if he was like, well, if I go sort of in a costume, I'll feel more comfortable than if I'm just going as myself, which I thought was really sweet. But yeah, he's also in the episode about the crazy fans, and in it one of the crazy fans has a podcast. So again, it's kind of what I love is that there's references on different levels. There's like different types of references, which I think works really well. I
mean, I recognized him from the show Hank Zipser.
Oh, I haven't heard of that. I think that the show he's probably most famous for at the moment is a show called Ted Lasso, which he does mention. But
it was like a show on CBBC about a kid who has dyslexia. It was like,
I remember
that
seeing that.
I think that might have been after my time, but
yeah. A couple of my relatives have dyslexia, so they really were really touched by the show, which is like why I'm aware of its existence.
Yeah, there isn't. He's one of those people where I don't know exactly where I first saw him, but I know who he is. You know what I mean. But But anyway, what I loved. I mean, the podcast adverts in the middle of it were really funny. One of the adverts they mentioned was actually the advert that plays during the background in Deadline, where there's like the radio ad playing in the background, and then there's and then the whole thing of the interviewer then answering the questions themselves and making the interview about them. I thought that was really funny, and I think also quite well observed. Which it reminds me of Graham Norton being interviewed, and he said a lot of people think, "Oh, I'd love to have your job. I'd love to do it." And he says, "What they don't realize is, your name is on the show, but you are not the show. You are not the focus of the attention. You're just there to get the best out of the celebrities. The celebrities are the show, not you." And yeah, that's the kind of thing I got from him. But it didn't kind of come across like he comes across as like slightly egotistical or just slightly sort of self-interested, probably is a better word. But also he comes across as like it doesn't come across as mean-spirited. It just comes across as socially inept, which just comes across as quite sweet. Did anyone get UK Office vibes from the final episode? Well, I suppose it has sort of the whole awkward comedy thing, which of course the first ever episode Sardines had. Although of course this doesn't have the whole sinister undertones thing. I got Extras vibes. I still haven't seen Extras. I only saw series 1 of the UK Office. Haven't seen any of the US Office, but I've heard it's very different tonally.
Oh my
so God, I don't know if it'd be my thing.
Sorry. That's the biggest travesty ever. Sorry. The UK Office, the beauty of it is you watch it together. Series 1, Series 2, and the Christmas special. It's like, what?
Sorry to interrupt, but like, don't you mean the original?
Yeah, I'm talking about the British.
Yeah,
I mean the original.
Yeah,
it's a line from the. It's a line from the show. It's a line from the show.
Oh, sorry.
But yeah, I think I'd had Netflix when I was watched series 1, and then I know how long I had Netflix. I think it was something like that.
You need to watch. It's on BBC iPlayer.
Yeah, do you have iPlayer now?
I love about the British thing though is the show's just short sweetness to it. I don't know. Whereas I felt like when watching the American one, it just goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah, I heard that they went in a very different direction in style of humor, which I actually saw a comment the other day under the trailer for the Friday Night Dinner remake, which is coming out on Freevee or something soon. And someone has said, well, the whole thing of having a different style of comedy is so that it appeals to a different audience. And I'm like, fair enough. I mean, I think I actually know someone who does a channel where he compares American remakes of British sitcoms that failed at the pilot stage, and it's really fascinating stuff.
Didn't they try and fail to adapt Peep Show like 7 times?
Yeah, and there's the really awful one with the bloke off Big Bang Theory.
Yeah,
which one? Which bloke are we talking about?
I've not watched Big Bang Theory. I don't know.
The guy with the glasses?
Yeah, the one who's not Sheldon.
The one who's not Sheldon. There's 3 which are not Sheldon.
Right, the
white guy who isn't Sheldon, who doesn't have the Beatles haircut.
Yeah.
Howard. No, not Howard. Leonard.
Yeah, probably.
I have a massive hatred for Big Bang. I wouldn't call it hatred, but I just don't like the show. Like it's just like I made this is it's one of like the videos that I made when I was like small. Let's say small, a young whippersnapper on the Big Bang Theory, and it had a very mixed response from people.
Yeah, I think it has it's quite a divisive show from what I've heard, despite being quite like kind of inoffensive, but also apparently not doing a very good representation of autism, or maybe just giving an overly stereotypical view of autism. I don't know exactly how that works.
I've had like people say to like people I know and like myself, "Oh, you're just like Sheldon," and it's like, "Oh, thanks." That's a huge compliment, I guess. Thanks. Haha.
For not liking a thing. Yes, that is so specific to that one character.
Oh, I hate when people do that. That is when when people. I hate it when people are like.
Yeah.
That is just
like I will say like Sheldon did have like character growth towards the end of the show. I'm not going to deny that he did have some kind of character growth, but like I feel like a lot of the time in the show, like a lot of the jokes are like, haha guys, look, big words, big funny words, big funny science words, haha, look how weird these guys are. Like, it's just not funny to me.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the show. Ross, this whole podcast bit really didn't really land for me. Yeah, I can see why. I think it's like sardines. I think it's a certain type of humor that isn't always easy to get into. That Ted Lasso. He does mention it in the episode, actually. Can you imagine people chatting about Inside Number 9 on a podcast/vodcast? Yes. So I should probably put these in a podcast playlist, actually. I've done it with the Psychoville ones. But of course, that was far more of a predetermined series that I planned on doing for months. Whereas this was like, I don't know, the show's on, I should probably do live streams about it. Anyway, both the office and plodding on new Steadicam. Yeah, that would affect the tone quite a bit. But yeah, I could see why. The Big Bang Theory is like it was written by a pig. I can't tell if you're referencing this episode or not, because they say that the Dante's Inferno show is like it was written by a pig. I'm not even interesting enough to get compared to a famous character. People just point at me and say, the guy from the Friends. I don't like the whole thing of people trying to find bad arguments to say that your opinion is wrong. I mean, it reminds me of that community note on a tweet of someone's, I think a professional critic as well, as review of Taylor Swift's album, and a Taylor Swift fan put a community note saying, correction, this is just this person's opinion. Yeah, that's what all criticism is, you idiot. There's kind of no such thing as objectivity. It kind of exists and it kind of doesn't. And it drives me slightly insane. I think that's why I feel more comfortable reviewing things than making things myself, because I think subjectivity drives me insane. But anyway, this bit got gasps in the cinema. People like, oh my god. This bit I didn't notice until someone pointed it out on Twitter. Let's see if I can get the... No. His face like, oh yeah, please continue. But I hadn't noticed this little bit here. He's asking him whether he went for a poo or a wee. He just mimes wee. And that is a reference to another episode, A Quiet Night In, which is, apart from the end, is a completely silent episode. It's brilliant. But yeah, anyway, this scene was so tense in the cinema. People are just like on the edge of their seats. Because, I mean, it's kind of like what I talked about with my Deadline video, is that we know it's not real. We know it's them playing themselves. We know that it's probably not that... It's probably close to how they are in real life, but it's probably more like based on public perception of them or something, rather than how they actually are, or a combination of the two. But But people are so invested in them playing themselves, and they can't help it because there is kind of an inevitable parasocial attachment to them. So yeah, this scene was, I mean, especially because the show Inside Number 9, the only consistent thing through it is them and their partnership, both as actors and especially as writers. So I think it was really fitting from that perspective. The only thing that runs through the entire series is them and the 9 and the hair. But you know, apart from that, the only thing that runs through the entire series is them.
I thought for a second when you said the 9 and the hair, I thought you meant their hair. I got really confused. I was like, the one thing that runs through the whole series is them, their hair, and the 9.
That would be weirdly specific. But yeah, people are still getting so upset over this scene. Like on Twitter, people are posting it all the time, getting really, really emotional. So yeah, it's a wonderfully written scene, a beautifully acted scene. And I think that those lines are just hard-hitting anyway. That bit where he says, we've known each other for so long, I don't even know if we're friends anymore. That's just something so painful to say. It was just so brutal. Everyone was just in shock. It's like, again, we know it's not real. We know that they're friends. I think Steve, I remember right, I think Steve made sure to say that they were friends afterwards. But yeah, it is a shocking scene, I think, regardless of knowing like the context between them. And that bit of them pretending to be dead, that is something that's like well known in the fandom. Steve mentioned it on Would I Lie to You? And then on they did a show for Sky Arts. It's like a documentary following them writing or something, where they mentioned that. So again, it's sort of, the bits of established things about them, I think really made it feel like it was them, even though it wasn't for a lot of people.
Wait, what do you mean? Sorry, you said like they were on Would I Lie?
So when they said, "Oh, I'm not gonna, fall about laughing anymore," when one of us comes in with 2 coffees and the other one pretends to be dead. That is something that they all do. They pretend to be dead.
Oh yeah, sorry. I thought you were talking about how Steve pretends to get the stroke thing in the episode.
Oh no! I was talking about that.
Like, wait, is this based off something real? Oh my god!
although that is interesting, that connection, isn't it? Maybe they're like, well, what if we really faked it, and what if the other was really scared? But yeah, again, Sean Gibson. I always scared I'm going to say Cyan because that's how I read her name. That bit of her coming in the same way she does in Bernie Clifton's dressing room to break up the argument between their 2 characters is really brilliant.
Oh, where's the bit, what's her name? The other lady, and she says this line. I absolutely love it, and she goes, something about I'm growing a tail or something.
Yes, that was Amanda Abington. I'm still not sure if I'm saying her name right. Abington or something. Yeah, that was her. Yeah, this scene where there's just so many. It's like a who's who of acting. I mean, particularly comedy acting, and it was just so shocking. Obviously, Ghost Twitter went mental over the bit with Jim Howick and Ben Willibond, and it was, it's just such a beautiful scene and a beautiful tribute to the show. They said that it was a bit difficult, this scene, because they they asked about doing this, they were like, the BBC were like, right, well, we will have to pay to transport everyone to where we're filming it, and they weren't filming it in London; they were filming it in Manchester. So, and of course, they're extras in the show. You know, so they're either not paid or they're paid extras wages or something like that. But they definitely obviously had to pay to transport all of them there. And I love Reece Shearsmith said, you know, I'm surprised a lot of them didn't do what I would have done, which is to say, oh yeah, sure, wait, it's not in London, fuck that. But yeah, it's just such a beautiful tribute to the show. And I think it, again, going to the whole thing of them two being the only consistent thing in it, it was,
and Martha,
the message of the episode is that, yeah, Rada. That's her nickname on Taskmaster. I'm like, oh, Rada. She was at the BFI screening for the in March. But yeah, I love the I'm kind of realizing this as I'm saying it, the fact that, like, I think the sort of the message of the episode in a way is that it was the people who made the show, and that's a friendship between Reece Shearsmith and Steve Pemberton and their creations, and it's also all the wonderful people they had in it. So yeah, that's kind of what I get from this.
It was the friends they made along the way.
Yeah, exactly. This actress, I can't remember her name. Monica Duran, I think it is, because I think they mentioned her earlier. I think she was there at the screening. I can't remember that, or it was the other person. Haven't looked at the comments in a while, but someone called Catherine is very excited about CBBC. CBBC, down. Turns out they're all ghosts or dead. We only did that once. Oh, no, that wasn't it. We only did that 3 times. 55 movies. You only did that 3 times. So I knew the ghost question in Deadline, where they had to be asked that on the one show. That that a producer had like asked them to ask it, or had hinted that they would ask it, but they weren't sure for certain that the presenters would end up asking it on the episode. But yeah, because they don't actually go for ghosts or the supernatural that much in the show. Yeah, Monica Dolan.
I'm sorry, I have to hop off the call, but it's been nice talking about Inside Number 9, and this is probably like the last Inside Number 9 review we'll ever have. But it's been very.
Well, I am happy to go back through the old ones and do streams on the old ones. So
I would love to do that. It's something
I'm considering. I'm not sure what to do exactly, but yeah, I'd love to do more streams like this, either on this or on League of Gentlemen. So
either of those I would love to do, because
wonderful.
They are my favorites. But yeah, as I say, I have to go now. But thank you very much, and bye to everyone who's watching.
It's been lovely to have you, George. It's
great to have
really
you
good.
on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, again, check out his channel for stuff about like the history of League of Gentlemen merchandise and that kind of thing. It's really interesting. But anyway, like you said, the fact that he's complaining about the bill is a reference to another episode. I won't get the chance to show everyone here. Other people have brought them up. So yeah, everyone here works on the series in some capacity. Mostly actors, but I think some behind the scenes people like directors and stuff were there as well. This deaf actress was in an episode called Empty Orchestra, which is set in a karaoke booth. So yeah, it's really nice that they had her there. She was at the premiere as well. She was signing. She had a sign language interpreter who I could see in the audience standing next to her. Signing the I don't know if she signed the episode, but yeah, she signed the interviews for her. I hadn't realised it was for her, because I don't think I've seen her in anything else, so I wouldn't have recognised her. But yeah, I was like, oh, look at in the episode, it's like, oh, that she must be here. I mean, of course, it could be that there was another deaf person there, but I don't know. I imagine it was her. But yeah, it was really lovely to see her, and it's just nice to see, in terms of representation, it's just nice to see like a conversation happening like this. I had heard somewhere that Reese Smith could actually do sign language, because his character does sign language in the episode, but I wasn't sure. But I'm guessing actually using it here confirms that. But that's like something I'd heard on Twitter or something. I don't know.
I mean, it's nice regardless.
Yeah, it's really lovely. I can't believe how many wonderful people they've had. And yeah, this is, it's so emotionally poignant. And yeah, again, it's this kind of, again, I don't think I felt it as much as other people, but I think there is a sense of this whole collective this collective image of who they are as people, that, and their relationship, that sort of has an inevitable effect on the episode. But yeah, this Mark Gatiss cameo is great. I saw the for those of you who don't know, this is him backstage at the theatre where he was doing Motive in the Queue, where he played John Gielgud. So I did see that play.
Sorry, whenever I picture him, I picture Dr. Lazarus, because that was the first time I saw him. So he looks a lot different now.
Yeah. He won an Olivier for this play. In his acceptance speech, he said, and I'd like to thank my husband for putting up with this awful haircut I've had to have for months, because he's probably say he's shaved his head so that he has Gielgud's receding hairline.
Ah, I see.
So yeah, but yeah, it was so wonderful, and this awkwardness with the finger at the end was so funny. I think I saw someone on Twitter say, I never knew a finger could be embarrassed. But yeah, this scene again, there's little references that they're doing to each other in this moment, and it was really lovely. And I love that whole thing at the end of Tim Key not being told about the audition, and then therefore kind of putting across the image of, oh, Tim Key's a loser, can't get any work. And I think he does tend to play those sort of awkward kind of characters. I mean, I bet know him best as sidekick Simon in Alan Partridge, where he does kind of play that kind of role. But yeah, and he's doing that, and then at the end it's like, yeah, they really want Tim Key. Yeah, he's obviously going to get it. But yeah. Oh, and that bit where they say, oh, there's a twist, has it been seeded? I won't spoil Sardines for you, but Sardines ended up being they talked about it. They cleverly seeded it in the Q&A before the episode. They're talking about the first episode of the show, Sardines, and it was originally just sort of about these characters playing sardines. And then I'll give the producer suggested something which I can't really repeat without giving away the twist. But then they decided, oh no, we should put this sort of quite dark, quick twist in it. So they then had to go back and put it in. And in the episode, there's these two characters arguing, saying, "Oh, this is terrible. We should go early. We should just say that the babysitter's ill." It's like, no, you can't just say the babysitter's ill. You have to seed the lie early on. It needs to be seeded. So they're like, we didn't realize it at the time, but in retrospect, that's what we'd done. We had to go back and seed it. So you're seeding in the twist. So yeah, that was a good reference. So I think that was one where I wonder if they made sure they seeded it in the Q&A, because they were like, that's one gag that fans might not get. It might not have been. It might have just come into the conversation like that. But yeah.
Okay,
and then this whole bit at the end, again, I haven't seen On the Buses. I've seen old sitcoms, and yeah, it was so brilliant, so sort of tongue in cheek, but sort of lovingly tongue in cheek. I noticed Steve Pemberton's eating an onion as if it were an apple, which is a reference to League of Gentlemen, but they also have it referenced in Psychoville and Inside Number 9. I can't remember when, but I'm pretty sure it's something that's in both of them. I think they keep referencing their own. They often reference their own work, and when you see like interviews and stuff with them, they're quoting their own work all the time, which is it's lovely. It's kind of like they're fans of their own work, but it doesn't come across in like a sort of a big-headed, pretentious way. They're just really proud of what they're made without being big-headed. I don't really know how to describe it, but it manages to come across as like sweet rather than egotistical when they do it. I don't know how to describe it, but yeah, lots of it. Oh, sorry.
I understand what you mean.
Yeah, there's lots of hidden references. So obviously, IN9, short for Inside Number 9. 3x3 was the episode. I guess this is a referee's a wanker reference. The football scarf, maybe. I don't know. I don't know football teams, but I'll just play through this. So this is in the background of an episode from this series that I don't think you saw, The Trolley Problem. I don't think you saw that one. That was an interesting one. It's about therapy. So this was like an old method of diagnosing people. This is a reference to Wise Owl, which is about well, I'm not going to go into what it's about now. She's got hair removal on her top lip, which is a reference to Hurry Up and Wait. Again, like I said, Catherine Parkinson and Amanda. Did I get it right? Was it? Yeah, Abington. And let me see. I can't remember. I don't think there's any references in that shot. Summerland there. That's a reference to Seance Time. It's if anyone else spots any references in the adverts in the background, let me know. But yeah, Summerland is the place that is like this psychic's way of describing the astral plane in that episode. There's an important white mouse in Trial of Elizabeth Gadge. This bust was the bust that you saw in the Composer episode, Curse of the Ninth. Obviously, I imagine props from episodes that recent were much easier to get hold of. And I love the whole set dressing and aesthetic of how they managed to get the 70s really well done in this whole scene. It's marvelous. Even the hair. Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, well spotted. Lonely Hearts Killer. Yes, it's Love a Stranger. Zanzibar, the hypnotist makes him eat an onion. Yes, that was it. I have a feeling it was mentioned in Psychoville. I know Tubbs eats an onion like an apple in League of Gentlemen, and then in the Christmas special, so it's not hypnotism, is it? I went to one and they made this lady eat an onion as if it were an apple. And then I think you see her in that character, someone in the background eating an onion as if it were an apple in that one as well. So yeah, let me know if you spotted any other references hidden on that bus. But yeah, that is just such a wonderful send-off to the show. I absolutely love it. There are plenty of Easter eggs in like the background of the party scene I'm not going to get into now because they're pretty hard to spot. But yeah, what an ending to the show. And if there we go. So in the party guests, obviously all these famous names, but you'll notice Europalepus, it's Latin for hair. or the proper name for European hair, and you see it in this episode. I can't remember if I've mentioned it before, but they have a hair statue that's in every episode. It's much smaller than the actual one. It's like this little brass hair statue. Oh. It's in the background of every episode. And it's something I think people forget to look for it. But yeah, it's this wonderful little Easter egg. They do have an episode that focuses on the hair, which I think was an interesting thing to do. Actually, there's an Instagram account. I can't remember what it's called, but it's all about the background of the hair. So someone has sort of come up with a headcanon for how the hair found its way into each of these places. Like, which character bought it from a jumble sale or something like that. Which is, I think, is a really fun idea. But anyway, so yeah, did you have, Sophie, do you want to share your overall thoughts on this episode as someone who'd only seen a few episodes before this?
I mean, I still, as I said earlier, I still thought that it was enjoyable. Like even if I didn't get the references, I could tell that they were making a reference, and you could kind of like fill in the gaps. So I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I'm really, really glad to hear that it did stand on its own. So yeah, I think there's personally there hasn't been a bad episode of Inside Number 9, but that's mainly because I don't count Death Be Not Proud to be an episode of Inside Number 9. I consider it an episode of Psychoville. But I've only seen Death Be Not Proud once. I really think I need to rewatch it, because I think, like with League of Gentlemen's Apocalypse, which I hated when I first watched it and I loved it the very next day, I think going in with expectations affected how I saw the episode. And that's my mantra now is for reviews is high hopes, low expectations. I always want to go in enjoying something, but I'm going to try and avoid expecting too much, or especially expecting certain things, which I think is difficult when something's a continuation of something.
Yeah,
I imagine it would have been easier for people who saw it as a complete shock and didn't have any expectations as to what that is. But I mean, I couldn't see how that would stand on as a standalone episode. But apparently, people who did see it do think that it works fine as a standalone episode and really loved it. But anyway. A frown takes much more effort than a smile. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it like that. Yeah. But yeah, I'm not someone who, like that guy, Chris Tuckman, I don't make a policy of no negative reviews, but especially with a video essay, I planned on doing a video essay on AI. I wrote a lot of it. Basically it was getting ChatGPT to come up with sitcom scripts and then dissecting why they failed and looking like the things that they had in common and as to why they failed. And I did 25 of those, and then I wrote about my findings. But I actually found it so depressing to write about that I gave it up. And it was about a year ago. But yeah, I mean, but with my video essay on Son of Dracula, I'd already done a review of it. I thought I watched it to review it, and then I thought, well, I want to do a video essay about why it's bad, but I'll do a review of it as well, just so that for the sake of having so that people might check this movie out beforehand if they want to, and give them that opportunity. But
I just can't get over the Merlin costume.
Yeah. It was literally painful for me making that video, and I was just like, I can't really do negative video essays like that anymore. I mean, with my Sgt. Pepper video, I was comparing it to better films, and I think that probably helped. The fact it was an opportunity to talk about films I loved, even though the whole focus of the whole thing was on something I didn't. But wow, that AI essay sounds so interesting, though. Maybe I'll end up doing a stream discussing it, because, of course, a stream, I don't have to do as much preparation, and it's like there's the writing, and then there's the editing. It was really, it was like fun for the first read through and of the scripts, because it was bizarre to see what they came up with, and also attitudes to AI shift as I was doing it. So it went from isn't this crap, or is it this interesting to see what this computer has come up with. I never considered. I used to do AI art as a hobby. I don't do it anymore, and I'm very anti AI art now. But I did it when I did it as a hobby. I never saw it as a replacement for art. I always saw it as what it was, which is an algorithm. Although I wasn't as aware of the fact it does plagiarism as much as it does. But the idea of it just being a computer creating something based on patterns it finds in things, I just found interesting. But yeah, it wasn't as much of a threat to people's livelihoods as it is now. So yeah, the attitudes towards AI definitely did impact that. So yeah, I may end up bringing a load of people on and reading through them with people, because that sounds like it might be fun. But writing an essay on it and editing a video on it, I think, would be painful. That, and of course, I then have to find something to use for footage for those episodes. But yeah, they are all just meh. It's interesting to see, the amount of knowledge, but unsurprisingly, they are all awful. And I mean, it doesn't help that ChatGPT can only write stuff that's inoffensive. It's actually in its programming. So yeah, so like I got it to write an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and it's like the most mundane episode you've ever heard.
I mean, as an artist, I'm not really the biggest fan of AI art, but when it comes to like writing stuff, I just do it because I think a lot of the stuff that it comes out with is funny, because it's just ridiculous and makes no sense. But I think it's fine to like look over like typos, because I'm somebody who makes a lot of typos. So I'm like, can you look over this paragraph and like check for spag errors? Because even when I've done it, it's like I miss stuff. So that's the only thing I really use it for.
Fine. It was just like the writing was just like the most unfunny thing you've ever read, and the most incoherent thing plot wise. I got asked to write a Golden Girls episode, and there wasn't even any conflict. It was they went to an art gallery, they had a nice time at the art gallery. That was it. And they only write episodes that are like, I don't know, 2 minutes long. Even when you specify, please write it as however many words or however many pages, minutes long, whatever, they will still come up with a certain amount of art. So maybe it's because it's the free version. I don't know. But
I asked it to tell me stuff about like voice types, for example, like just to see what it would say, and the stuff that it would tell me was just completely wrong. And I was like, okay, that's just wrong. Okay, you can't, like, what if people actually want to like know something?
And don't get me started on that new Google AI.
Oh goodness.
It's funny. Anyway, I think we'll wrap this up now. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I don't think I have anything more to say. I think it's just a fantastic piece of television, a perfect end to a perfect series, really.
Yeah, I think the show went out with a bang, definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you very much, guys. Thank you all for watching, especially if you've been here for the whole thing. I doubt it, but if you have been, it was very much appreciated. Thank you so much, guys. I know it was a long one, this one, but yeah, thanks for sticking it out with us. So yeah, thank you very much. Like I said, check out George, aka Jetro's channel for more League of Gentlemen stuff, and please check out Soapy's channel, because I can't believe Soapy doesn't have 1,000 subscribers yet. It should be a crime. Her videos are fantastic reviews, mostly of like so bad it's good kind of movies, and like it's sort of like you cover a lot of sort of straight to streaming horror and that kind of thing.
Yeah, like cult films, that kind of thing.
Yeah, brilliant. So yeah, thank you very much, guys. It's been lovely to have you. And yeah, see you all soon. Bye-bye.